one. They say anything can happen in an NWA show, and quite frankly, it certainly did. This is First Things First. This is the Hit in the Turnbuckle podcast, and we have got someone who has just recently won NWA Championship Gold, which I believe she's showing you right now. An NWA show, I think in Chicago, they were NWA champion, Miss Big Mama. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on the show. Let's just first off, congratulations as a show. What a way to win it. I mean, these live events in wrestling, things that anything can happen. I mean, how much of a surprise was it to you that, get into the event and then they saying, hey, you're winning the title tonight?
I mean, it's just, yeah, stunning. I mean, it's something I've been working for a lot of years, to be able to have that stage. And it's one of those moments in your career that you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. So, I mean, and truly anything can happen at any of those shows. And that is certainly what happened.
It certainly did. I mean, and again, it wasn't just an ordinary match. It was a fatal four-way. Hollywood, Haley J, Tiffany Nieves, and of course, Markova, Natalie Markova. So you've beaten sort of two of the rising stars in the NWA and potentially one of the newer stars in Hollywood, Haley J. I mean, that's no mean feat for a start.
I mean, it was when I saw who was in the match, because I didn't know going into it until literally, I think, the day before. Um, you say Markova, she is literally the workhorse of the NWA. She's the number one contender for the Burke right now.
Yeah.
And I saw her and Tiffany Nieves, oh my gosh, damn near kill each other at NWA 76.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they are the cream of the crop at NWA. And to say that I have beaten them in a match, I am extremely pleased. And I'm no stranger to Hollywood Haley J. We run kind of in the same area for several years, and she backs up what she talks. I can tell you that.
She certainly did. She certainly proved that way at 76 in the Battle Royal, and hopefully we'll see her again. Obviously, at the time of recording, NWA did record a Samhain 2 yesterday, the Power Tables, I believe, going to air around December time. I think there was a spooky Christmas feel to yesterday's tapings.
Yes.
For sure. But, the previous champion who vacated the Lucky Seven was Max the Impaler. Now, I know you're no stranger to Max as well. You've had your run-ins with Max in the past. Taking the championship, you didn't obviously take it from Max. Max vacated it. Max went on to was unsuccessful this time with Kenzie Page. But to come off the back of Max's title reign, is that pressure for you now to maybe deliver that and go for the Lucky Seven yourself, or are you just kind of coming now and sort of assess the enemies, so to speak, now?
So it's kind of ironic in some ways. Next week is actually 1 year since I went to the NWA for the first time for my first set of TV. And to say that I'm standing here a year later at this point is just kind of astronomical to me. And through that year and prior to that, I have seen Max, good God, like Max is the most dominant person I have ever seen in a ring. If you want to talk about something to face off with, it is incredible. And I have gone toe to toe myself for this TV championship
Yeah.
actually, in Chillicothe, Ohio. And I do want to state that I walked out of that match with my title still in hand for the Queen of the Ring. Max still had theirs. However, I still had mine too. And not a lot of people can say that. And I'm not afraid of a challenge. Never have been. I wouldn't be here this long if I were. I certainly intend on the Lucky Seven, but I'm open. If you want some, come get some because I'm ready to run this on the line and bring me any and all comers. Like I'm ready for it.
We look forward to that for sure. I mean, you've mentioned the Lucky Seven and, of course, Kenzie Page. I said it, we obviously review NWA week in, week out on this channel, and we've had the privilege of having Kenzie and Kylie on. But in terms of the women's division in general, I've said time and time again in the NWA, I would put that up against any women's division in any company right now. I mean, to be honest, women's divisions all over wrestling are so hot at the moment. I mean, just like this early hours of this morning, actually, I was watching Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich tear it down at Bound for Glory.
It was
Is it
incredible.
it really was. And is this now like, because obviously, I've always said women's wrestling, especially in, maybe the WWE and AEW, goes through that kind of roller coaster. Like you will see a lot of it and then it will die down and then people will start on social, we need to see the win. And then it comes back up. Women's wrestling now, though, I mean, certainly into TNAs and the NWAs, feels, without being detrimental to WWE or AEW, it does feel more important in like the NWA because we see it more showcasing more week in, week out. And it's not even the fact that they're showcasing it, it's the talent there and jazz behind the scenes that do so much
Yeah.
work for the NWA.
I mean, it has been, I've been in it, my career is now a full grown adult. It's a little scary to say that. But as far as from the day that I started training, I in July did hit 18 years. And to see how far women's wrestling has come just in those 18 years, it's absolutely incredible. And the division at the NWA, that was one of those things that I said several years ago. I said, I have to be there. These women, iron sharpens iron, and these women are absolutely sharpening each other each and every week. And there's no question of that division is on the forefront. If you want an absolute banger of a match, if you want to go for the terms, when it comes to any of their live events, any of the pay-per-views, those women are tearing the house down. And I will not accept anything less for myself. I mean, I want to be there for a reason because I want to prove that I'm at that level as well. I mean, they are going and going hard and they get better each and every week. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. So the territories are now playing a massive role in this. Obviously, in WA Chicago, we've got Crossfire, we've got JCP. There's a couple more that forgive me, even if I haven't mentioned them. Exodus Pro, another one. There's a couple of announcements coming up in due course, which potentially could lead to more. How important of a factor do they play, not only to bring up some of the younger talent, but at the same time utilize the top people there to come to the NWA and perhaps create the next star?
So, and I think that's a really big thing. One of the things that I'm really appreciating now is there is thankfully, I think now a really established base of veteran women
Hmm.
that are like Markova and like Jazz in the background, and that have just been able to really hone in on those younger talents. For example, in the Burke, there was some of those talents just mind-blowingly with the talents and the moves and everything that they're so capable of and their charisma and the potential. And I feel like for so many years, there really wasn't anything to identify those workers. And being able now for those territories to be able to bring that to the forefront and then put them in like the Burke Gauntlet. So it's really creating kind of that streamline to open that up. And it's vital. It's vital to the success of not only women's wrestling, but men's wrestling as well. It definitely opens up all of the areas for these are who we're now keeping an eye on, and now we need to build them.
Yeah, definitely. I love the crossover that they obviously done recently as well. The Back to the Territory shows was great. I've always got a title match on the other week watching the Crossfire show from the Page sisters. It's incredible just talking about Kenzie and Kylie quickly because the forefront of yourself now is part of that forefront of that division too. But when you see, and you're an 18-year veteran of the business, but when you see Kenzie and Kylie, is it like mind blowing just how great that they are at such a young age, but also at the same time, it's a testament to that actually I call it being a sponge, absorbing all that information, bringing your talent together. And obviously you need talent to wrestle. But does it even surprise you that they're so young, but they are literally like I think I called Kenzie like a ring general the other week because that's how
But
I see it.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, so a very, very wise man, one of my trainers once told me, shut your mouth, open your ears. And you can have all of the talent and ability in the world, but unless you have that attitude to soak that in and take everything in, you may not get very far. And The Page sisters, I, everything. They take everything in. They take everything on board. I watch live and then watch back Kinsey versus Max from NWA 76.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about the progression of Kinsey Page? I They absolutely destroyed each other in that ring. And there, if anybody had any doubts, which they're crazy if they did, about Kenzie's level of ring general ability and just to go out there and crush it, all of their mouths should be shut right now because that was a match that it had you witnessed. It was incredible.
Yeah, I know she won the women's championship at 75. I always say do the comparison between Max and Kenzie then and Max and Kenzie from this year,
Yes,
and it's night and day, really. I mean, she was good then, but obviously a bit
but
better.
yes.
But let's talk about yourself because obviously you mentioned that 18-year career in the business. How is the career in wrestling? I mean, 18 years, you must see a lot of changes in that time as well because wrestling evolves. It's not just a thing. But going back 18 years, if you could like give yourself some advice apparently from now, what would you give it?
As I say in the ring, buckle up. I would say that one for sure because you never know what's going to be thrown your way. And one thing I really pride myself on is you have to have thick skin. You can't not be tough in this business because you have to fail to succeed, I feel like. And that applies to a lot of businesses, but especially in pro wrestling. I mean, I spent years just grinding. I was wrestling the guys because we didn't have any girls, and which I do love wrestling, guys. I'm just gonna say it. I do love it. I'm here for it. Um, like it's actually a funny story. I trained for nearly 2 years before my first match, and I never wrestled a woman until my first match.
Wow.
I'd never been in the ring with another woman until that day.
Wow.
So it's just so crazy now because now it's like, oh, what are you doing this month? Like, oh, I have 7 matches. Oh, okay, all right. So I mean, it's just seeing how far along just the availability of women talent.
Mhm.
That first and foremost, being able to have those talent available and to help them grow, it's really been incredible. Um, yeah, buckle up because you don't know what's gonna come, and you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Because I
Mhm.
do feel like I did waste an early chunk of my career not being ready and not having the tools. And don't be afraid to get in the car and go and get to the shows. Because I'm very fortunate in that my home company, Northern Wrestling Federation, we have weekly shows, so I'm very spoiled.
Yeah.
It's never a matter of, oh, do you have a show? Like I have one every weekend. So so
Brilliant.
yeah, I was very, very spoiled in that. So
You made an interesting point though, because you mentioned there that you wrestled, sort of trained for 2 years before you even wrestled a woman, and going back to sort of 18 years or so, you're kind of right. It wasn't. It was still kind of the women were there, but were they being used right? Maybe not. And you said about the thick skin as well, because we were talking to one of my UK. We sponsor some women's wrestlers over here in the UK. And the one thing that she was always told training was you're not going to make it because you're a woman. But this was still quite, this wasn't that long ago over here in the UK. They've obviously seen been embraced. But the epitome of women's wrestling now it's not just they're not just a sideshow anymore. They're a massive important part of any show, which obviously, going back 18 years for you, as you say, there wasn't a lot available. And is that because of the fact that was it wrestling that didn't care, or was it maybe the perception that the women get from watching it on TV isn't the perception they get of watching it now, for argument's sake?
I very much think that when I started, it was not the sideshow, but we were a feature attraction once every 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
It would be brought up, or once every 6 months. And and that may have been because of a limited availability of talent. I definitely will not agree with that. As far as having women available who were trained. Um, But I also think that there has very much been a movement towards it was the right time and the right place with the right people,
Yeah.
that there were certain women that really showed out, and it showed that women could and should be feature attractions with big matches. Um, like for example, the first main event at WrestleMania with the women and things of that nature. So I
Yeah.
think those kind of moments really made not just the fans change their perception, but also the business as a whole. And they really took note of, well, we have women, we can do this if we put the faith in them to do so. So it was really, I think, just a matter of having the right place and the right time.
Yeah, definitely so. And the right talent, and you've got everything now. I mean, in terms of the women's wrestling, it is great. But
Yes.
back to your career though. At what point did you start to think, you can train, and I've trained, well, I trained for a month, and trust me, no, it just I knew. I just knew it hurt. Running the ropes, you still get it now. The amount of wrestlers I see now, they run the ropes and they get all this, not whiplash,
Oh,
but
I have a giant bruise in my back from last
yeah.
night right now. So yeah.
Exactly that, and I took a few bumps, and I didn't have the athleticism or to be a wrestler. But at what point did you start when you were trained? Did you think, hang on, I can do this. This is something I can actually do.
You know what? I don't think anybody has ever asked me that. Oh, so I am not, there's a reason why I'm Big Mama. I stay on the ground.
Yeah,
I am not the most athletic person in the world, especially if you watch my moveset. I mean, it is my strength and my strength on other people. And that's okay. I think that's actually one of the things I really love about wrestling is that everybody is so different and so unique that you can capture your own strengths and your own moves. Um, and for the longest time, I had to come to accept that I'm not like the AJ Lee. I'm not the little tiny, sparky, spunky.
yeah,
I'm never going to be that. And I don't want to be that. And so I had to accept that there were limited roles for larger women. And I think that's just a reality. But I think that applies to a lot of any business, as far as physical businesses. However, it also put me in a very advantageous spot of we need someone who's going to come in and clean house. And I went to I think it was a show in Illinois, if I recall correctly, um, where people were literally saying, "We've never seen a woman here that could go toe to toe with our guys and our girls." And it was in that moment of, and it was like, and you know how to do that well. And I was just like, you know what? I do. I do know how to do that well, and I'm gonna freaking use that. And that was actually like 6 or 7 years in. So I mean it was a nice slow long burn to really hit that point of like, okay, might have something here.
certainly do. But you mentioned the sort of the size thing though, and I look at it now like, I mean, back in when I sort of maybe the early two, but we had like Amazing Kong or Awesome Kong or whatever you ever want to call it. She was like, the difference. You had China back in WWE days. But now I don't really see like, because you mentioned like the skinnier women or the women that's like the WWE, for example, used to love their models, and they used to bring them in and train them in. But nowadays, if you look at like Jordan Grace, is a prime example. I call her pocket rocket because she is quite in height wise. She's not, I'm probably taller than her, but in terms of stature, she's got that. Rhea Ripley's another one that's got
Yes,
that look, and Nia Jax has got that look. I think nowadays, and you may be right, back sort of, when you were training, it may have been like a commodity thing, like, wow, this is something different. But I do think now, and maybe again, this is where times and wrestling has changed. They may be hesitant back in nowadays to maybe hire someone like that because, again, perception of how the bigger companies perceived it to now, where it's like, actually, you've got something here, let's run with it. Is that something that perhaps you
yes,
agree with, that the perception has changed a little bit in terms of the promoter side of things?
yes. I 100% think that people realize and the promoters realize this is something that can be utilized. And you don't just want, just like, for example, like the high flyers 15
Yeah.
years ago, nowhere near highlighted as they are like they are now. And it's because they realize not every match is going to be the same match, and everybody wants to see something different. So it finally reached that point of, I think there was more of a publicly accepted perception of women are going to throw down and they can be big and they can be powerful. And that's a great dynamic to use. I think 100% is a perception deal.
It certainly is. I think, and I'm so glad it has changed because there's so many talented people out there. You don't have to, you don't have to have that, I say the look that the WWE is looking for back in the day. It's like if you can wrestle so well, it doesn't matter about height, size, weight, whatever. It is if you're
Exactly.
gifted, you can do it. And obviously, like yourself, you certainly are. I'm drawn to that picture behind you. What is that? Sorry, I'm just.
No, no, you're fine. So this is the circa 1950s. I am a Ohio native, born in Northern Kentucky, and have lived in Ohio for the last 19 years. And this is a picture of the Cincinnati Gardens in the 1950s,
Wow.
and absolutely filled to the brim. Yes. So my husband, also my trainer and my promote and the promoter that I started with, life happens.
Yeah.
But hey, um, Roger Ruffin, he had his first job in wrestling in the Gardens, taking jackets, so at ringside. So it's when the Cincinnati Gardens um building was torn down, they had like a little Hall of Fame museum in there, and they were not raffling off, but auctioning off items. So this was his birthday present, but it's also just an awesome piece for our office. So,
That is a really unique piece of work. I like that. I really do like it. Just before we start wrapping up here, I'm going to pose a question to you, and I always kind of do it, but I'm going to change it a little bit. So just say, for example, now you're the champ. Billy gives you a call, and he says, "Right, okay, we're doing a taping coming up," and he wants you to choose a woman from the WWE, a woman from AEW, and a woman for TNA to come into NWA. Now, don't worry about the finance side of things. You can select one of each from each company to come in and take on you for that title in a fatal four-way match. Who's the three that you're going to choose, and what are your reasons for choosing them?
so I'm torn on TNA only because I have two favorites there. Um, I do want to say both of them, but I do have one that I think I would pick
I'll make
over
it a
the other.
five-way. Fine, do both.
So for TNA, Kylan King, who's coming back from
Yes.
injury,
Yeah.
and then Jordan Grace.
Yes.
Um, Jordan Grace, I've seen her come up through the years and just her evolution and her moves and just everything about her work, especially now, has just been so incredible. Kylan King, oh my goodness, like has the most innovative offense and powerhouse moves that it just I don't know how she wasn't signed earlier. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like she's an incredible presence, an incredible worker. And I want to go toe to toe with him. I tried to actually I do have an all women's event that I run once a year, and I tried to get her and she got injured. So coming back. For AEW, I would have to say Chris Statlander.
Yeah.
Just I love it, Chris Statlander and Kylan King do have a lot of similarities in my mind. Um, but she's been able to connect her character and her presence in a way with her move set
Mm.
that I think is just super unique. And I would like to see how that go toe to toe with the two differences. Oh, WWE. Oh, there's a lot of choices there, I do have to say. Um, it is someone that I've always wanted to work with though, Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Only because I love two bigger girls just going at it and just beating the crap out of each other. Just gonna own it. It's a thing. And I would love to be able to just throw down. So yeah, I would. Plus, let's be honest, in a scramble match, you never get to see two bigger people in the match going at it.
True.
So I think that adds just a super cool element to a scramble match.
I think it would. Billy, if you're listening, just
Man,
makes
let me know.
makes it cool. Just quickly talk about that all women's thing that you do every year. About what's all that about?
Yes. So, my home company, Northern Wrestling Federation, we So we've been running, we're actually coming up on our 29-year anniversary.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's been a ride.
Wow.
And so our women's division when I started, it was me and one other woman. And so my biggest focus there was I wanted to nurture and grow and be, I mean, it's mama, but it's big mama. So it's tough but firm. It is what it is. But I wanted to grow a division there to create a home for women in wrestling. So it was really, really important to me. And that's something I think we have done successfully over a number of years. And 8 years ago, we really came into, again, that goes to the right place and the right people and the right time. We had a really good core group of women that it was iron sharpening iron. Like we bounced very well off each other. We listened, we were tearing it down in the ring. And I am fortunate enough that I've gotten a lot of experience through my husband learning how to run the shows in the background and everything else. So I proposed to him 4 years ago, hey, let me handle this and run an all women's event. So next May, we will be coming up on women's event number 4. And it has been I remember our first year we were sold out of tickets before the door even opens. I was
Brilliant.
like, oh, no pressure. Okay. um, and the thing that I've really have loved to see about these events is I'm getting to bring in talent from places. And not only am I helping our girls build up and gain confidence with bigger names and bigger talent, but getting to see our crowd connect to women's wrestling as a whole on a bigger scale has been really, really cool. And I have a super cool thing. I'm switching it up this year a little bit. It's just been a focus of just an event every year. I have realized that there are no women's only convention of like reunion style conventions in professional wrestling, at least in the United States, or maybe outside of the States. And I've been extremely fortunate to make some really good connections, especially over the last about 2 years with NWA and like with jazz and everything else that we're shooting our shot. We're making the goal for next May that this is going to be a women's talent fan fest reunion and event. So that is kind of our next big building stage on that. And I'm terrified and excited. And my goal is to be defending my championship on that show, hopefully. So
Wow.
that is yeah.
That's going to be incredible. I'd love to see that. That would be amazing stuff you do. And listen, if you ever come over to the UK and tour, I mean, we've got some women. We as I sponsor some women's wrestlers that I'm sure Artemis, our Crimson Kill Shot. Happy birthday, Artemis, by the way, just to get it in there. Will would love to do it. And also we've got our own championship over here, the women's championship as
Heck
well as
yeah.
men. So if you ever come over here and
I
you
have a passport. I am ready to travel anytime anyone wants me.
There you go. So make sure we'll get ad books for sure. But before we start wrapping up, just tell us what you got coming up. I know you got your weekly shows coming up. Where can people find you on social media, and what is next for you?
So you can follow me and my schedule on it is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I just joined TikTok because apparently I'm old. I found out. I don't know. All of those platforms are Big Bad Mama '06. Make them nice and consistent. I am, like I said, I am very fortunate in that we have weekly shows. I do have several events coming up now defending my championship. So that is coming up. Shout out to Generation X Pro Wrestling and Appalachian Mountain Wrestling for defenses of titles there. So super pumped for that. You can find me at Looks to Kill in Dothan, Alabama, in December. So I will be there.
Brilliant.
And I'm ready to throw down with anybody in NWA. Like I'm rearing and ready. I think the really what's next for me, and I think that I had to really sit down and have that conversation with myself after the other week. Um, I am ready to get on the road. I'm ready to use that passport. I want all of the experience. I want all of the rings. They all become my house anyway. So Yeah, let's bring Big Mama's house to every single ring in the world. That's where I'm at right now.
Definitely so. I second that any UK promoters out there. Funnily enough, AJ Kazana has not long touched down in the UK for his UK
Yes,
tour. Which
JCP Southeast, baby.
JCP Southeast.
They
Well,
may have caused me to take a thrill ride, but that's okay.
we've also got, I know the Southern Six are due over next year as well. And I heard a whisper that the Page sisters are maybe looking
I
at.
have heard, I have heard.
If that's the case, then the promotion that we work with Ignite may be busy next year if they come in for sure. But Big Mama, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking some of your time to talk to me. We'll look forward to seeing what is next for you on NWA. Currently, everyone on X, 6:05 Eastern, 11:05 UK time. They pin it to the X account, so you can watch the last. I think it's the last 76 this week, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
What happens after that, we don't know yet. We haven't heard anything. Hopefully, some news soon. But no, it has actually generally been a pleasure. Good luck with everything. We will keep watching you on socials and on NWA, and we will look forward to seeing you very soon for sure.
Thank you.
No problem, guys. This has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I'll get the words out eventually. She has been the NWA Women's TV Champion, Big Mama. I've been your host, Adam Cousins. So there's the bell. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.